Son of man, go in among the house of Israel and speak my words to them. For you are not being sent to a people who speak an unintelligible language or an unknown tongue, but to the house of Israel. You are not being sent to many people speaking an unintelligible language or an unknown tongue, whose words you cannot understand. If I would send you to them, they would listen to you. But the house of Israel will refuse to listen to you, for they do not want to listen to me. All those of the house of Israel are hard-headed and hard-hearted.
This video is created primarily for Jehovah's Witnesses, as they are Jehovah's people. Greeting everyone, brothers and sisters, in all corners of the world. My name is Son of Thunder. This episode is inspired by Jesus Christ's statements at Matthew chapter 18. When Jesus Christ was on earth, he would go around and preach a crowd of people. Some were young, others were old, and in the midst of them were children. Jesus Christ loved children very much. Maybe it is because of their innocence and eagerness to learn. Whereas when he find himself getting into discussion with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, maybe they got him frustrated, because they thought they knew everything. Since they are the ones who went to the finest schools in Israel, the Pharisees and the Sadducees' knowledge blinded them from seeing that they were speaking to the true Son of God, the Messiah they have all along been waiting for. Had they humbled themselves, just like children, they would have opened up the veil of blindness and accepted Jesus as the Christ. Hence Jesus made a statement meant as a figure of speech to his disciples. He said, "Truly I say to you, unless you turn around and become as young children, you will by no means enter into the kingdom of the heavens." Whatever the reason why Christ loved the little ones, in Mark 10 verse 14 Jesus issued out a chilling warning that everyone should take note of. In the account, after Jesus was finished preaching, then parents started to bring their children to Jesus Christ for him to lay his hands and pray for them, but his disciples reminded Jesus. But he, at seeing this, Jesus was indignant and said to them,
"Let the young children come to me, do not try to stop them, for the kingdom of God belongs to such ones."
And he continued and said,
"But whoever stumbles one of those little ones who have faith in me, it would be better for him to have hung around his neck a millstone that is turned by a donkey and to be sunk in the open sea."
The message is clear. Let the children learn about Jesus Christ and Jehovah God. Over and above that, James says, an acceptable form of worship to Jehovah is to take care of the orphans and widows. Orphans are children who do not have parents. For them to be in that position, it puts them in a most vulnerable place, because they do not have parents to protect them, whereas widows are women who have lost their husbands, usually in family setting. A man is the head of the house and he provide and protect the family. Therefore, when the head of the house dies, then that family shall be left without protection. Hence a Christian congregation is obligated to play the role of the protector. This does not exclude our elderly ones. To love and protect our elderly people means that we go above and beyond to make sure that they have been taken care of. It is the same with orphans and widows. As an example, let's say you have an elderly woman in your congregation, and that elderly person does not have a family. She stays all by herself, going above and beyond, to merely saying you love that elderly person every time when you shake her fragile hand, before and the after meetings. It means that you would make sure that her house is clean, she has food, she gets to the clinic on her appointments, and that she has transportation to the meetings and coming back. After doing all of that, and then you say you love her, and you always protect her, I will then believe you. But what if instead of doing all these things for her that she clearly needs, say one day you realize that she has not been attending the meetings, then you get to her house and found the house in a mess, you then tell her that she should clean the house, and that Jehovah does not like a place that is dirty, and start asking her why she has not been coming to the meeting lately. Even if you profess to love and protect elderly people, then your actions have failed you. Take a look at what Proverbs says.
"Even a child is known by his actions, whether his behavior is pure and right."
From our previous episode 4, we have learned that our organization has been in the news with child sexual abuse cases. In 2012 we have lost our first case, and in 2014 the 6 lawsuits opened against this society. Recently, early this year 2015 in Australia, the Royal Commission inquired into how Jehovah's Witnesses respond to child sexual abuse cases. They took 2 cases as an examples. to look into the process before even the case began, around the time when the elders who were involved were summoned by the court. Obviously, the matter reached the ears of the governing body, and they made a public statement, possibly to give an answer to Jehovah's Witnesses who might know about the matter and having questions, especially our brothers and sisters in Australia. The inquiry was playing on Australian national TV. This is what the governing body said about the matter in May 2015 JW Broadcasting.
The governing body has also asked me to address another topic that I must say hits close to my heart, being a father who raised two boys. The subject is the abuse of children and the damaging effects this can have on such innocent victims. As an organization, we view all such abuse of children, whether physical, sexual, or emotional, as deplorable. As you likely know, Jehovah's Witnesses take a stronger position than most on the scriptural inappropriateness of any form of immorality. However, to take advantage of innocent young ones is absolutely despicable. As a religious organization, we have taken a decisive stand against such behavior. It is our fervent desire to protect children from any kind of abuse. Our policy as an organization is that one professing to be a victim or his parents should never be discouraged from reporting the incident to the appropriate authorities. While child abuse has been perpetrated earthwide in many cultures for thousands of years, it is only in the past 40 years or so that the magnitude and the extent of the problem has become better known. This is because governmental agencies are now determined to take a more active interest in this problem. Laws were enacted requiring medical and other professionals to report cases to the authorities when they became aware of them. Prior to that time, many governmental, educational, and religious organizations were somewhat naive about the magnitude and the complexity of the situation. Others knew of the problem and covered it up. What has our position been as an organization? When what was termed as the new morality became popular over 50 years ago, which included sexual relations among young ones, we condemned such behavior based on the Bible's unerring and timeless principles. As the awareness of child abuse became more and more known, we published a landmark Awake magazine over 30 years ago. It was the issue of June 22nd, 1982. There are 5 article titles that nailed the subject in a very straightforward manner. The first article was entitled, "The New Morality." And then, "Chickens and Hawks" was the second article. It warned about homosexual men who prey on and advocate the right to use boys for sex. Shame on them. The next article, "Baby Pros and Kiddie Porn," condemned prostitute rings that employed small girls in an array of abuse. Then rape at home, no further explanation needed on that. And finally, the article, "To End Child Abuse." I remember this magazine well, since I had 2 boys who were in elementary school at the time. And again, remember that the world in general was still somewhat naive about the magnitude of this issue and the gravity of the problem. I read the 5 articles. Then I looked at my 2 boys, and I said a prayer to Jehovah, thanking him for moving the organization to be so proactive in trying to help parents to protect their young ones from the plague of the new morality and the abuse of children. This issue has been straightforwardly addressed in print many times since then. While we cannot control everything that an individual might say, it is clear that over the decades, protecting children from abuse is a top priority for this organization. We are proud of our reputation in this regard. And we look forward to the time in God's new world when no one, young or old, will ever again be a victim of abuse. Since the latter part of our discussion has addressed what Jehovah's organization has done to protect children from predators, it gives me great pleasure to release at this time another animated video in the series, Become Jehovah's Friend. It is entitled, Protect Your Children.
Children, Jehovah wants you to be happy and keep you safe. But some people want to do bad things to you. So Jehovah gave you a conscience. It's like an alarm system that helps you to know right from wrong. It will protect you from danger. So, Mom and I will help you test your alarm system. Ready? What if someone tells you something that makes you feel uncomfortable or scares you? What do you do?
I'm not sure, but that's weird. Stop.
Very good. Tell them to stop it. And you tell Mom and Daddy. No matter what someone tells you, never keep a secret from us.
What if they ask you to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable?
I would say no.
You're right. You should say no and walk away.
What if they try to touch you where they shouldn't?
I wouldn't let them. I'd get out of there.
Good, Caleb. Even if it's an adult you know and trust, you should say no and run away. And you should yell, "Stop doing that. I'm going to tell on you."
Stop doing that. I'm going to tell on you.
The world can be a scary place, but you are never alone. Remember, you have your conscience, your mom and dad who love you, and you have Jehovah.
We're happy to see how Jehovah's organization continues to teach our young ones how to make wise choices when the figurative monsters of this world try to lure them into their traps. And you parents should be commended for your tireless efforts to protect your children.
Going back to our example of our beloved elderly person, merely professing to love and protect our dear elderly people does not mean anything if it is not accompanied with actions. Being proactive and giving support to the abused victims does not only mean opening up several scriptures of comfort, and then tell the victim to leave the matter in Jehovah's hand. Proverbs 3 verses 27 and 28 says,
Do not withhold good from those to whom you should give it, if it is within your power to help. Do not say to your neighbor, Go away, come back later. I will give it to you tomorrow, if you can give it now.
How can we say we are being proactive, when the same molester abused several children before the police intervene and arrest the perpetrator? How can we say we offer support to the abused victims, when not even one abused victim received financial assistance from the organization for trauma counseling? In the meantime, we have programs for building more Kingdom Halls. We have recently moved our New York headquarters to Warwick. We are building new Bethel in the UK. We have brand new broadcasting studio. We have revamped our website. We pay for expert witness to testify against victims of child abuse. We pay for elders' expenses who are summoned to court in our defense. I am sure there are many other things we spend our money on, but just not to abused victims. To make matters worse, listen to what the governing body member Stephen Lett said about child sexual abuse cases.
Another way we can contribute to the oneness, rejecting false stories that are designed to separate us from Jehovah's organization. As an example, think about the apostate-driven lies and dishonesties that Jehovah's organization is permissive toward pedophiles. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? If anybody takes action against someone who would threaten our young ones and takes action to protect our young ones, it's Jehovah's organization. We reject outright such lies.
False stories. Is he not trying to dismiss the matter by calling it apostate-driven lies? I am sure the prosecutor at Australian court listened to this talk, because when he got a chance to question another governing body member, Jeffrey Jackson, he posed his questions that seems to be directed to Stephen Lett, Here is the video clip.
Mr. Jackson, and in asking this question, let me make it clear, I'm not suggesting it's peculiar to the Jehovah's Witness organization. There are many, many organizations in this position. But do you accept that the Jehovah's Witness organization has a problem with child abuse amongst its members?
I accept that child abuse is a problem right throughout the community, and it's something that we've had to deal with as well.
And do you accept that it's presented, I withdraw that, do you accept that the manner in which your organization has dealt with allegations of child sexual abuse has also presented problems?
There have been changes in policies over the last 20 or 30 years where we've tried to address some of those problem areas, and by the fact that we've changed the policy would indicate that the original policies weren't perfect.
And you accept, of course, that your organization, including people in positions of responsibility like elders, are not immune from the problem of child sexual abuse?
That appears to be the case.
And do you accept, Mr. Jackson, that many of the efforts that are being made by different people and organizations to highlight the issue of child sexual abuse and try and find solutions are genuine efforts to improve the situation?
I do accept that, and that's why I'm happy to testify.
And that such efforts are not necessarily an attack on your organization or its system of beliefs?
We understand that too.
You described earlier in your testimony that the work of this Royal Commission is beneficial. Do you accept then that the Royal Commission's efforts are genuine and well-intentioned?
I certainly do. And that's why we came into the Royal Commission hoping that collectively something would come forward that would help us as well as everybody else.
And would you disagree then with anyone who said that the efforts to highlight and deal with child sexual abuse in the Jehovah's Witness Church is engaging in apostate lies?
I guess that's a broad question, because sometimes those who make these accusations make many other accusations as well. But let me assure you, the person making the accusation is not the main thing. The main thing is there some basis to the accusation? And if there is some way that we can improve, the governing body is always interested in seeing how we can refine our policies. You see, Mr. Stewart, could I just emphasize, as a religion, two very strong things we feel. One is we try to keep a high moral standard, and secondly, there's love among the organization. So we want to treat victims in a loving way.
From the least of them even unto the greatest of them everyone is given to covetousness, and from the prophet even unto the priest everyone dealeth falsely. They have healed also the hurt of my people slightly, saying, Peace, peace, when there is no peace. Were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? Nay, they were not at all ashamed, neither could they blush.
Two governing body members seems to be contradicting each other. Indeed, this is what Jehovah is saying to us, at Ezekiel chapter 34 verses 2-4.
Son of man, prophesy against the shepherds of Israel. Prophesy, and say to the shepherds, This is what the sovereign Lord Jehovah says. Woe to the shepherds of Israel, who have been feeding themselves. Is it not the flock that the shepherds should feed? You eat the fat, you clothe yourselves with the wool, and you slaughter the fattest animal, but you do not feed the flock. You have not strengthened the weak, or healed the sick, or bandaged the injured, or brought back the strays, or looked for the lost. Rather, you have ruled them with harshness and tyranny.
주여 와요 간절히
I thank you for watching. Join me on another episode, to gain understanding as to why might Jehovah be angry at us as his organization.
Son of man, you are living in a rebellious house. They have eyes to see, but they do not see, and ears to hear, but they do not hear, for they are a rebellious house. As for you, son of man, prepare for yourself luggage for going into exile. Who is wise? Let him understand these things. Who is discreet? Let him know them, for the ways of Jehovah are upright, and the righteous will walk in them, but the transgressors will stumble in them.